Welcome to this session of Authors in Conversation. And today I'm talking to Sandy Davies, who's written a fabulous book and is really essentially one of those people we'd call an innovator. So welcome, Sandy. And I'd love you to start by just talking about your author journey. What got you to write that first book of yours?
Yeah, well, thanks, Jane. When I think about my author journey, I was always thinking, oh, it's so amazing that it's happened now and it's happened in this second spring and my dream book evolved in my 50s. But then I go back and think, you know, I wrote a book when I was 8. And, maybe that's where the whole author journey started, even though it took me until my 50s to finally create and publish The Power to Rise Above. So, my author journey goes all the way back and those times when it would rear up again and maybe time didn't allow it to come to fruition, or I'd get a rejection letter from an editor and just think, oh, I've got to get on with other things. But then I come to the now, and I was in a situation where there was a female bully who was bullying younger women in the workplace. And something in my heart just hurt so bad. And it was one of those toxic work environments where you couldn't really change the situation of the manager because there wasn't a suitable management chain for her removal. And in the end, my solution was that those of us that had resilience and found a way out of that situation needed to share our stories. And that was how The Power to Rise Above was born. So it was going to be an homage to anyone who needed to know that they were okay in a bullying situation and it wasn't their fault and they were enough, and they would find a way either within the workplace to resolve it, or they would find a way to shine somewhere else and be valued. And that was how The Power to Rise Above was born. And it grew into something so much bigger, but that was the catalyst.
Fantastic. And talk about what it grew into, because this is fascinating.
Oh, I still pinch myself and I get goosebumps and chicken skin and just feel like, how did this happen? How did we manage to evolve this project into something so magnificent? It went beyond the core 9 women that were going to share our stories of adult bullying in the workplace and how we'd had past experiences that had lent strength to that moment. To then I had someone say, oh, I know I wasn't in that environment with you, but I would really like to share my story of childhood abuse and then my later economic trials and how that has made me the woman I am today. Do you think that would fit? Oh, let me think. It was a no-brainer. I had to say yes. And then I had a number of other First Nation women who said, I'd really like to share my story. And it developed this magic power, like an incredible wave. Like if you were out there surfing and you see this wave come in and you're like, are you kidding me? Are we going to catch this one? And it was like we all 30 just jumped up on our boards and took that wave to the shore. And I just love that thing of being open to changing the vision of how you think it's going to have the final bow. Because sometimes when you're open to those additional contributions, it just becomes even better.
Oh boy, and there were 30 women's lives changed, but the ripple effect of that, there's no way of quantifying, but it would have been an immense ripple effect going from there.
Yeah, and I feel like that ripple effect has so much length. People always talk about how you have such a short window for your book and there's such a short book life. And I just feel like it's not maybe infinite, but our book life is going to continue for many years to come, because I still get now people who have bought the book because of someone who heard about it at the launch. And then they take the time to send an email. So there's so many other people that will just have their own personal healing experience and their own personal reassurance that never even tell us. So yeah, it's like you say, it is an invisible ripple. And we've had so many books donated in women's shelters in California, transitional housing in New York. There have been donations in Melbourne on the streets, just everywhere across the globe. even in Birmingham, there's been a lot of donations in Birmingham in the UK into transitional housing. So I just, yeah, you never know sometimes when you take the time to share your story, the benefit it could have far beyond anything you could ever imagine.
Yes, it's so true, isn't it? And then beyond the book itself, I see the beautiful imaging behind Happy Pause. Tell us more about this, Sandy.
Yes, well, I, like so many women in our 40s, entered perimenopause and didn't have the knowledge around menopause to understand what was happening. My GP kept telling me it was just perimenopause. And because I didn't know that perimenopause is where it all happens, menopause is only the one day where we cease menstruation for 12 months and then we're postmenopausal. I didn't know that. I didn't have that education. I just thought when he kept saying it's just perimenopause, oh no, holy dooly, menopause is going to be horrific. And I ended up having an allergic reaction to something he had prescribed. And I thought there has to be a better way. And the better way for me was formulating Happy Paws, originally for myself for intimate dryness. And what I didn't know then is there is so much shame around our sacred space and around our vulva and our vagina, as well as shame around menopause, which you know from your book about thriving through menopause, which
Yes.
I love. I just, I found myself so isolated during that experience. And I love that women like you and I are innovators and game changers and willing to share our message and our experience and our knowledge to ensure that the generations and the people after us don't struggle like we did. And I guess that was why I created Happy Paws. I created natural preservative free balm for intimate dryness so that if we didn't want that more chemically laden path, we had an option and an alternative.
Fantastic. And, not everybody has the wherewithal to do that, but you're the innovator, as I said earlier. Innovator. But what's so interesting too for me is that, the idea of menopause being called the change and all the baggage around language. This is a really other big topic, a whole book in this. But change is constant. There's this whole thing about change. It's constant, and if we're prepared to change, if we go with change versus the resistance of change, well, it can be bigger and better in terms of how life looks. Look at you, look at me. We're hardly ready to go on the pension or whatever would be the alternative to what we're doing. We're doing what we love. We found what we loved through going with it versus pulling against it. But for you, that education piece as well. And interestingly too, I had my first child, well, my only child, as a matter of fact, when I was almost 40. So I go through that and I think, oh my God, why didn't anyone tell me about this? I could have been better prepared, would be the thing that I would say. Whereas, I'm like a deer in the headlights trying to then cope with everything. But this is where I love what you've done, though, because it is so, it's so beautiful. You've put a beautiful image to the question of menopause. You're putting your bright personality. There's nothing fake about you. This is who you are. You love life is the thing. And why should that not be the case?
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like sometimes when we let those symptoms sort of pull us down, we just need that reminder from those of us who have come through it and see it as this amazing time to shine, that there are solutions and you can get through them, and they're not the end all or a death knell. And I love Faith Agugu from Silver Sirens. She always goes back to one of her favorite Native American sayings, and it is, I don't always get it quite right. It is, a girl is born into her power, and when she begins menstruation, she embraces her power. And when she transitions to menopause, she becomes her power.
Oh,
And
I
I
love
just
that.
love that. Yeah, we just become our power. Like there's just something magical about that transition from perimenopause to postmenopause, that we truly do step into a new level of power and knowledge and wisdom. And it just gives us that extra leap to do those things we've been dreaming of or haven't had time to actually fully form and mold. It really is our time to thrive.
Mm. Now, what I love to ask people like you is, do you have any tips?
Do you know the biggest one is just do it.
Thank
And
you. Thank you. Like that.
it's one of those things, just do it and embrace imperfection. Because sometimes I think I quite often talk to people who say, "Oh, I've always wanted to do that," or "Oh, I've got a manuscript half finished, but it's not right." And I was recently at an event with Screen Queensland where a very, very astute director was saying, when you go out and you want to shop your manuscripts, don't shop your piece de resistance, shop your talent and hone your talent with 4 or 5 major projects. And I guess that's the thing. Like, you don't have to have the first thing be a masterpiece. You just have to let that book that is resonating in your soul out. And there are editors like you, there are so many people around who will support you and help you breathe wings into your story and make your story shine.
Oh, thank you. That was beautifully put. And now, is there another book in you, Sandy?
There is, and there are. The Power to Rise Above has taken on such magic. And with the Power to Rise Above, it was 30 women from across the globe. And I actually lost my brother to adult suicide many years ago.
Um,
And as a result of that, I suppose I've become a bit of a suicide prevention advocate.
mm,
And I have had a number of male mental health stars reach out to me and say, we need to share our stories for men as well. So there is a male version of the Power to Rise Above coming that is just going to be told from men's direct voices, like unfiltered as it is, with a way to let men know that, just like one of the most amazing stories in the Power to Rise Above is from Karen Gibson, and she writes about the gift of her failed suicide attempt when she was 28. And
oh boy.
she
Mhm.
is so brave, and I love that she has written about that to
Mm,
remind all of us that if we reach that point, we need to breathe and give ourselves space and reach out and just know that this moment will pass. And I love that the next volume is going to have numerous men
mhm,
providing tips and advice and how to find a way to let that moment pass.
mhm.
And I think that there may even be a couple more volumes of The Power to Rise Above themed around things like one of our authors wrote about her failed IVF, and failed IVF just gets buried and hidden, and there's so much joy for the people who have success with it that
Mm,
we often forget about the buried grief.
mhm.
So I think there's going to maybe be some themed The Power to Rise Aboves.
I love this. Yes.
But there is also a Book of the Heart coming. And
Oh gosh, Sandy, I didn't know I was opening quite such a big door. You have several books that are really actually well conceived in your own mind. So it's not just, yeah, look, I might do another book about this or that or the other. These are already taking shape.
yeah, they've already got their own fires and building that momentum. And I guess
Mm,
that's the thing too. Like, once you have become an author, be open to how those words guide you and drive you and elevate opportunity, I suppose.
mhm, mhm. Oh, I love this. Now, what's the best place for people to find you?
So the best place to find me is happypause.com.au. So happy pause is a play on menopause. So it's happypause.com.au. You can also find me at LinkedIn, Sandy Skelton Davies. And Instagram is probably my preferred social platform. I just can't sort of migrate over to TikTok. I feel like a bit of a dinosaur that I'm not making the transition, but find me at Instagram, and then also thepowertoriseabove.com.au.
Fantastic, Sandy. Thank you.